A lot of kids, lose that ability and that creativity that really is innate to them as a young child because they've been told over and over again, this is how you do this. This is the way that a paragraph is written. This is how you write an essay. This is how you start an essay. This is sentence number 1. This is sentence number 2. This is how to do it. Hello, thank you so much for joining the Falling for Learning podcast. I am TD Flenaugh, a National Board Certified Educator and parent who is on a mission to ensure that parents have the strategies, resources, and skills needed to make sure that they know how to get their kids on track for learning and to stay on track for success. So today we're going to be talking about freedom of choice. So this is really important because creativity comes from choice. Freedom of choice, right, is so important. I'm going to say it a couple of times just because it is something that's really being lost from what we're doing in our everyday lives. I know that in the school system it's very difficult to remind people and to impress upon people the importance of creativity. And then, of course, this platform is for parents to make sure their children are on track for learning and to stay on track for success. And so we really need to think about how we could give our students, our children, a choice about how they're going to do something or what they're going to do to demonstrate their learning and their knowledge. And sometimes we're thinking, oh, well, I don't do all that at home or whatever, but we do teach our children a lot at home. We may teach them how to cook, clean, to negotiate, to even get along with people. We teach them so much, but we don't think about it that way all the time. But I am really encouraging you to think about it. How are we going to teach our students through a freedom of choice, right? Through freedom of choice, choice breeds creativity. What can we do? So if you're teaching your children, to do some artwork and you may not be thinking about it that way. You might just be decorating a Christmas tree or whatever you're doing, decorating for a party or something like that. That might happen. But give them some choice. Like give them, maybe you're going to stick to a specific color, but you give them a choice about what different patterns that they might use or different designs that they could use as long as they stick in that particular color. You could also think about, for example, writing. If you're working with your children on writing at home because maybe you do homeschooling or you see that there's a whole gap in your children's understanding and you're like, no, we need to work on writing. So you could say, okay, we're going to write an essay, for example, but maybe you give them the choice about what to write about. So if you want to give them something to write an argument or opinion piece, for example, give them a choice about it. A lot of times as teachers we'll say, everyone's writing about one thing. And what happens is the kids are getting very, they're not interested in the topic. If I tell you to write about snakes, write an argument about snakes, and you're not into snakes, you don't like snakes, maybe you don't even think about snakes. It's not something that you're interested in writing about at all, but you're told to do it, right? As an adult, we have a choice. We don't feel like doing it. We don't want to continue in this program, whatever it is who's telling us to do that. We might have to do this for our jobs, of course. But when we're thinking about kids trying to learn those basic skills to learn how to do something, how do we get there? And that is really important that we think in terms of helping them to connect with what they like and what they love and what they enjoy so that they can also learn the skills, right? Because when they're motivated to do something, they're talking about something that they love or that they're really interested in, they're very curious about, then that helps them to hook into whatever it is that they're doing and gets them to the place where they love to do whatever it is that they're learning to write, they're learning to draw, they're learning to whatever it is. Giving them that freedom of choice allows them to be creative and it motivates them. It gives them that sense of excitement, curiosity. So the freedom of choice breeds innovation. It makes sure the students are progressing. And also, let's think about progress on another level. We want our children to be the leaders of tomorrow. And that's what we need is progress. We need some progressive ideas or solutions to issues. And when we give our children lots of choice and lots of ways to be creative, then they're able to exercise those skills so that they can be effective leaders that have creative ways to solve problems. They are able to be innovative and to produce innovations to old issues or old problems or old tools. And that's what we want. That makes our children be able to get to fall in love with learning, right? Because we've given them some kind of creative license. And one way to do that is the freedom of choice. Right? We want to make sure that they have those experiences and those opportunities to be creative. And when we do, that's when we could get to them really getting to know themselves, get to know who they are. It helps them to really be acquainted with things that they like, things that they don't like very much, and to really get to who they are at the core. Right? And this, again, can be duplicated across the curriculum, across content areas and subject areas where they can be creative. So when you're thinking about math, you could help them to think about multiple ways to solve a problem and, be creative in how they solve those problems. And it could be more than just solving a problem, but also just building a number, multiple ways to build a number. And there's lots of, curriculums and activities to help students really hook into multiple ways to build numbers and structures and to creatively solve problems. And again, giving them those opportunities, if they have that opportunity again and again to be students, to be someone who can think creatively, to think flexibly, that is going to give them the advantage that they need to be a leader, to approach problems in different ways, to think outside of the box. And when we don't have those experiences, when we don't give them the creative license, when we're saying everyone is going to draw a picture of an apple and everyone has to draw the apple like this, it really shuts down that experience and their creative muscles may atrophy. A lot of kids, lose that ability and that creativity that really is innate to them as a young child because they've been told over and over again, this is how you do this. This is the way that a paragraph is written. This is how you write an essay. This is how you start an essay. This is sentence number 1. This is sentence number 2. This is how to do it. And a lot of us will say, oh, well, they don't really know how to do it. But what we need to do is really think about where they are, what they know how to do well, so that we can help them build on where they are. Instead of thinking about what they don't have, really look at what they do have. You do have the ability to add simple numbers, like 1-digit numbers or 2-digit numbers. Let's help you get to 3-digit. Let's help you with, express, showing your artistic skills, like you're showing us that you know how to shade or you know how to, show depth, but you are going to draw whatever you want. It could be just, any fruit that you want or any one object that you want. But instead of everyone having to draw the apple, and do it the same way. Now, of course, there are times when everyone needs to draw the same thing, but what the issue comes when there is no choice, when you have to draw the same thing over and, draw the same thing over and over again, write the same thing in the same way over and over again. Even when it goes into reading, like everyone's going to read the same book. Again, it has to be done sometimes, but when are there times that you get to choose that freedom of choice to read what you want, read what interests you, and then choose a project where you're going to demonstrate your comprehension of that reading task, of that book that you read, of that novel that you read. Again, this is very key in helping them to hook in to what they like, what their talents are, getting to know what their interests are, and even getting to know what they're not interested in. When kids don't have this experience, they may not know what they don't like. They may not know what they like, because there are just rule followers. They are people that are being trained. And this sounds really bad. Hello, parents and caregivers. Join us every Wednesday for our Well Educated Wednesdays on Instagram Live from 5:30 to 6 o'clock. We will be getting your questions answered about how to get kids on track for learning and to stay on track for success. It's free, and you can ask any question that you would like. We're here to serve you and to make sure that you have the tools and strategies needed to make sure your kids are a success. And you can make sure that next generation is on a path to greatness. But this is true. It's true. Being trained to serve others, right? You don't want your child to be only capable of, following a direction from someone. You tell me exactly what to do, I'll do exactly that. Of course, we need to be able to lead sometimes, and sometimes we need to be able to follow, right? But if I just know how to follow and I don't have those innovation muscles, toned up, and in working order, then I am in the position where, even if I'm given responsibility, I might just be looking for other people to fill up that day or to tell me what to do or how to do it, how to get it together. I'm waiting for people. And so it's clear, okay, you're not fit to lead. You're not sure what you're supposed to do. You don't have that innovation that you need and the vision, right? The creativity that comes from that freedom of choice. You are able to have a vision for what you want or how things should be done. And you have your own perspective that is valuable and that you can express and you can articulate to others. But without that freedom of choice, you're just regurgitating or saying, okay, I'm supposed to do this. I was told to do this, and I have to do this, and I have to do that. And you don't have any innovative ways to approach problems. You're just going to repeat what everybody else has said. And, it becomes really a lack of, a lack of agency. And that's really sad. Because if you remember, kids are very creative. They haven't been told a lot of times what doesn't fit or what doesn't go. And they're thinking about things in a different way, a way that is unique to them. And that's, no one else can bring that to the table. And that's what your kids need to know. No one else can be them. And of course, people could pretend to be them or act like them. But their own special brand of who they are is unique to them. And when you have the freedom of choice, you get comfortable in what resonates with you, what speaks to you, and then really helps lead you to finding your place in the world. And a lot of us, people don't know like where their place is in the world, where they belong, or what they should be doing with their lives. And again, that comes from having that lack of choice and the lack of ability to choose what they're going to do, when they're going to do it. And that is, a travesty. So, the choice is free. If you're going to draw, the same thing, or you have a choice to draw different things, that's free that you could give kids, and you could exercise that ability for them to be creative and for them to get to know themselves. You could do that multiple times a day. And again, of course, there should be some balance where there are maybe having to do what everyone does the same thing, but make sure it's not leaning towards most of the time everyone has to do the same thing. Because again, that is a disservice to kids, and is something that we need to remember as adults. We have choice all the time. Right? Well, not all the time, of course, but we have choice on a regular basis. And, as adults, you have to navigate so many things, and you have to think about what works best for you and why, and how to fit it into your unique life and your unique situation. And that's what you do. You get better as you get older, hopefully. But kids need those experiences early. They need to feel like they have some say in what they're doing. And that will, again, help hook them into the learning process, helping them to fall in love with learning, helping them to have the motivation to propel them forward into success. And that's what we want for our children. So, again, when we are allowing them the freedom of choice, that's going to make sure that they are becoming leaders that could serve in leadership roles, and not just serve in leadership roles, that they could actually be an effective leader who is a problem solver and who could work through how to solve complex issues and situations and conflicts, and design as well as plan for different projects and all the array of, possibilities. And that comes from giving them a free tool and a free exercise, which is choice. Giving them some time to choose and to think through what they can do. And that can be done in small ways and little ways. I have I have a niece who, when she was little, I was like, she was over at my house and I was asking her, like, okay, what kind of, you want cereal, or, she's wanted cereal, like what kind of choice, what kind of cereal. I had maybe 3 different choices and she chose the cereal. And then I reached in the cabinet to get a bowl, and she's like, the pink bowl, So I was laughing because I didn't even think about giving her a choice about which bowl. But, she was already ready with her answer for the choice. So she was very comfortable giving her choice and having a choice. And again, it gives kids confidence. And a lot of people get, that analysis paralysis when they don't know how to choose, and they weren't given a lot of choice as they were growing up. And I definitely experienced that, where I was definitely just a rule follower, and many times wasn't given a choice, or wasn't thinking about how I might get a choice, or asking for a choice. And just used to just following what, the way things were. And I remember in certain situations as an adult, I really had to make choices, and I really didn't know how to make a choice, and I didn't really know what I liked or what was best. Of course, I made it through. But in other situations, sometimes we really need to think about how we might be hobbling, or, giving our children a disadvantage. And so, one of the main things we talk about when we're talking about falling in love with learning, we also want to think about what we might be doing that's creating the opposite effect. What might we be doing that is, making kids hate learning or hating the learning process, or really just kind of staying away from those activities because it's so unenjoyable. It brings so much anxiety and stress towards them. So, really keep that in mind. What are we doing to support our kids and freedom of choice? And many times it is free. Of course, there are some times where it'll cost you more money with certain choices. But it just gives our students so much, our kids so much, when we can give them the, just the space and the grace to learn what is best for them and what their preferences are. It just gives them so much confidence. And so we really have to think about that in small ways and in large ones. How can we give them the freedom of choice, the gift to choose? And so it's going to take some little heavy lifting from us sometimes, or some flexibility on our parts, but it gives them so much that they can work with when they get older. They're not just learning how to write, but they're also learning how to be creative when they're writing, to be problem solvers, to think flexibly. And that will give them a head start on people who aren't given that. And, it's something that we really need to really ponder and think about. What are some practices that we're doing that are helping our students to fall in love with learning, to gain independence, to really garner the skills that they're needed? And then what are some things that we're doing that are creating that opposite effect? And a lot of times when we talk to students, they will tell you, like, these are the rules. This is how this is supposed to be done, and we can't do it differently. And sometimes those rules make good sense and are sound, and sometimes they're rules just because they're a rule. Sometimes we're doing things just to make it easier for teachers instead of what's best for students. So as parents, who are the first teachers and the continuous teachers, we really have to think about, what are we going to do to circumvent those issues, to make sure that we are going to give our children the advantage by giving them the freedom to choose. Again, the freedom to choose breeds creativity. It creates leaders who can think flexibly, that can be problem solvers, people who can make sure that they are able to achieve progress towards a goal as a leader, that they are innovative, right? And again, the downsides of not leaning into creativity and giving them creative license, giving them the freedom to choice. The downside is we're having people who are producing the same types of things, instead of having more creative iterations of a project or a product or, a service, when we can be thinking about how we can be progressive, how we can improve upon the original, and how we can continue to make it, more and more creative and more functional, and an ease of use, right? Can make the use of a particular tool or resource easier. So again, thank you so much for joining us. Thank you again for joining the Falling for Learning podcast. I am TD Flenaugh. We drop new episodes every Saturday at 5 p.m. Join us on YouTube at youtube.com/@fall4learning. youtube.com@fall4learning. You can also catch us on Spotify, Apple Podcasts, all the major podcast platforms. And we appreciate you for joining us and making sure that you have the tools and resources to make sure your children are on track for learning and can stay on track for success. Have a great week. Thanks again.